Welcome to today's deep dive. We're really slowing things down today to look at a single dispatch from the internet.
Just one little post. Yeah.
Right, just one post. Published literally today, August 10th, 2026. It's this incredibly short blog entry by an author named Ang, and it's titled Notes on Gardening, Part 982. Finding Inspiration in an Unexpected Field of Vincas.
Part 982. I mean, that right there is incredible.
It's wild. Like, on the surface, this is just a tiny, very brief observation about a flower, right? But our mission today, for you, the listener, is to uncover why this seemingly simple little entry actually holds this massive masterclass in overcoming failure, checking your ego, and finding unexpected inspiration in, well, the most mundane corners of our lives.
Right. And what's fascinating here is that we are essentially dropping into the middle of a massive ongoing conversation with this text.
Literally dropping right in.
Yeah, I mean, Ang actually begins the body of the post with the sentence, continues from my previous post.
Okay.
Right. No grand reintroduction for the reader. We are stepping onto a moving train here, and our goal today is to sort of extract the universal wisdom from this one highly specific moment in Ang's long journey.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I want to start with that title, Part 982.
Yeah, it's a big number.
That number alone, it signals a profound level of long-term commitment. I mean, to write nearly 1,000 updates on a single topic.
Gardening, of all things.
Gardening. It shows this methodical, almost investigative dedication to documentation. It really frames everything we're about to discuss with a deep sense of respect for Ang's process.
It definitely grounds it.
But the inciting incident for today's specific revelation, it didn't even happen during a focused gardening session. It happened during the absolute baseline of human existence, which is, running errands.
Running errands.
Yeah.
And that context is vital. I mean, Ang writes about simply, quote, attending to my errands when they stumbled upon this massive field of blooming Vincas.
And Ang specifically identifies them, right?
Yes, specifically as catharanthus-roseus.
Wow, okay, hitting us with the Latin.
I try. But Ang notes that this is probably the first time they've ever seen such a large field of this specific plant. And I think the interruption of that errand state is really what makes this observation so potent.
I totally agree. I actually want to dig into the psychology of that errand state, because I think everyone listening to this knows exactly what that feels like.
Oh, absolutely.
It makes me think of highway hypnosis.
Oh, yeah. Like when you're driving and you just blank out.
Exactly. You know, when you're driving on a super familiar stretch of interstate and suddenly you realize you have literally zero memory of the last 10 miles.
It is terrifying, but it happens all the time.
Right. Your brain just shifts the driving to a background process so your conscious mind can wander elsewhere. And running errands operates on that exact same cognitive autopilot.
For sure.
You're at the dry cleaners or, the grocery store, but mentally, you are 50 miles away worrying about an email.
Well, in that autopilot mechanism, it's really a survival tool.
How do you mean?
Well, if we had to actively process every single visual stimulus at the grocery store, we would just be paralyzed by sensory overload.
Oh, yeah, the cereal aisle alone would break us.
Exactly. So the brain filters out the mundane. It just blocks it. And the fascinating part is that when we are in that filtered, low expectation state, the sudden introduction of extreme natural beauty.
It's like a massive field of blooming flowers.
Exactly, like that field.
Yeah.
It doesn't just register as a pleasant sight. It pierces the veil of the autopilot entirely.
Right.
It creates a cognitive shock.
It forces a hard reset on your presence. And it's a completely different mechanism than, say, seeking out inspiration on purpose.
Right. Which is what we usually do.
Yeah, like if I go to a legendary botanical garden or a famous art museum, I am demanding that the environment move me. I'm arriving with this really high burden of expectation.
And that expectation often creates a barrier.
Because you're waiting to be amazed.
Right. You are constantly judging the experience against your anticipation of it. But when you're, picking up milk on a Tuesday, your expectation for encountering profound beauty is at rock bottom.
Zero. Below zero, maybe.
Exactly. So the friction between the dullness of the routine and the vividness of the catharanthus-roseus, it forces Ang to stop and become acutely observant.
But see, recognizing that beauty is only the first step here. The real cognitive friction happens in the next part of the post, where we move from the external discovery to Ang's internal realization.
She says of their history with the plant.
Right, because Ang has a history with this specific plant, and it is not a history of success.
No, not at all.
Ang bravely admits in the text to having, quote, Mixed results, keeping and growing Vincas in the past.
Mixed results. I love that phrase. It's such a wonderfully diplomatic
Yeah,
phrase.
isn't it? It's like the universal hobbyist euphemism for failure.
Oh, 100%.
It means buying a plant, doing your absolute best, watering it, giving it sunlight, and just watching it wither anyway.
We've all been there.
Right. But this is where I really want to challenge the expected narrative of this post. I think the average person, if they had struggled for years to keep a vinca alive in a carefully curated pot, and then they walk past a random patch of jute on an errand and see a massive, thriving field of them grown effortlessly by some total stranger.
You wouldn't be happy.
No, they would not feel inspired. They would feel mocked by the universe. I mean, the default human reaction there is intense frustration, maybe even a little resentment.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you're describing the standard ego-driven response to failure.
It's all ego.
It really is. We tend to view other people's effortless success in areas where we've struggled as this, like mirror reflecting our own inadequacies.
Like, look how bad you are at this.
Exactly. The instinct is to say, why can they do this and I can't? I must just be inherently bad at this. But what Ang demonstrates here is a radical departure from that ego-driven baseline.
Exactly, because Ang doesn't spiral into self-doubt. Ang writes that seeing this field showed them that it is possible to grow this plant to its absolute fullest potential.
Ang chooses to look at the field not as a mirror, but as a window into what is structurally possible.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, and it requires immense emotional maturity to separate your own past failures from the objective potential of the subject. Ang effectively says, my past inability to grow this plant is not a permanent law of nature.
Right, it's not a curse.
Exactly. The plant is highly capable. The failure was just a variable in my specific approach.
That is an incredibly liberating way to process failure. It totally reframes the concept of mixed results.
It really does.
Because if the field of Vincas is proof of concept, then the past dead plants are no longer evidence that Ang should give up.
They're just data.
They're just data points. They are stepping stones toward a fuller potential that Ang now knows, for an absolute fact, exists in the real world.
It re-energizes the pursuit, really, because it isolates the variable. The problem isn't that Vincas can't thrive. The problem is simply finding the right conditions for them to do so.
Yes, the right conditions.
Which leads directly into the core architectural revelation of this entire post. Analyzing where these flowers were actually succeeding.
Right, the geography of the inspiration. Because Ang specifically notes that these Vincas were blooming at the edge of some small gardens.
The edge.
Yeah. And from this observation, Ang draws the ultimate conclusion of the post, which is that this plant species reaches its fullest potential, especially as a border plant.
A border plant. And, the concept of a border plant carries heavy metaphorical weight.
Oh, definitely.
Think about the function of a border in any constructed environment. It defines the boundary between the wild chaos of the outside world, the sidewalk, the street, the weeds, whatever, and the cultivated intentional order of the garden itself.
So they do a lot of heavy lifting.
Exactly. Borders do an immense amount of structural protective work.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because we are, as a society, completely conditioned to ignore borders.
Oh, totally. We just look right past them.
We are obsessed with the center. If you build a garden, you want to show off the giant rose bush right in the middle of the lawn, right?
The centerpiece.
The centerpiece. If you go to a gallery, you stare at the oil paint in the center of the canvas. But think about the picture frame analogy.
Okay, lay it on me.
You can have a masterpiece painting, right? A total masterpiece. But if you put it in a cheap neon plastic frame, or if you remove the protective matting entirely, the art itself suddenly feels diminished.
It really does. It changes how you see the art.
Right. The border dictates our entire perception of the center.
Because without the frame, the center lacks definition. And Ang's revelation here is that the vinca, despite those past mixed results, might not be meant to be the show-stopping centerpiece.
It's not the raised bush.
No. Its highest calling, its truest biological potential, is to provide that crucial structural framing. It excels at the edge.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit, or at least how we apply this metaphor to our own lives.
Okay, push back.
If I'm the listener, right, and I translate this border plant concept to my career or my creative projects or even my relationships, isn't focusing on the edges a recipe for stagnation?
How so?
Well, society tells us to aim for center stage. If I accept that my role or my project's role is merely a border plant, Aren't I just resigning myself to the margins? Aren't I basically accepting mediocrity?
Okay, I see what you're saying, but it is a profound mistake to equate the margins with mediocrity.
Really?
Yes. What Eng is discovering is not about settling for less. It's about optimal alignment.
Optimal alignment. Okay, explain that.
Let's translate this to a modern workplace, right?
Mm,
Everyone wants to be the visionary CEO, the person delivering the flashy keynote, the center of the garden.
the big boss, yeah.
But a company entirely made up of visionaries collapses in a week.
Oh, it would be a disaster. Nothing would get done.
Exactly. The border plants in a career are the project managers, the administrative staff, the logistical systems, the routine maintenance tasks. They hold back the chaos.
They're the protective boundary.
Right. And if someone who is naturally gifted at structural organization, a human border plant, if you will, forces themselves into a highly volatile center stage visionary role because society tells them they have to,
They're going to fail.
they are going to experience mixed results. They are going to feel like a failure, just like Eng's past Vincas.
Wow.
Finding your fullest potential often means recognizing where you naturally thrive, even if it is on the edge, supporting and defining the whole ecosystem.
Wow, that makes total sense. It's about fighting the friction of misplaced ambition.
Yes, misplaced ambition.
Aang was likely trying to force the Vinca into a role it wasn't suited for, and the epiphany was realizing its power lies in its natural placement. The border isn't a demotion, it's a very specific type of vital utility.
And this also applies to how we structure our days, too.
Oh, how so?
Well, we obsess over the core deliverables, right? Writing the big report, closing the massive sale. But the edges of our day, our morning routine, our evening wind down, the quiet moments of just organizing our thoughts.
Those are the border plants.
Exactly. Those are the border plants that actually protect our ability to perform the core tasks. If you ignore the edges of your day, the chaos of the world bleeds right into your center.
So by observing this one field on a mundane errand, Aang hasn't just learned a gardening tip. Aang has uncovered a structural truth about harmony and placement.
Absolutely.
And I want to shift our focus now to the actual container holding this structural truth, which is the blog itself.
Oh, yes, because the medium chosen for the message is just as revealing as the text.
It really is. And the framing of this specific post is just dripping with deliberate intent. It opens with the greeting, "Dear Interweb."
So good.
And then it signs off with, "Till the next post, yours truly, Aang."
Dear Interweb.
Yeah.
It treats this vast, chaotic, hyper-connected digital void like a singular pen pal.
Like they're writing a letter to an old friend. And this raises an important question. Well, you actually have a phrase for this.
This raises an important question, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It raises a question about how we are currently interacting with the internet versus how Aang is utilizing it.
Right.
Because we mentioned earlier that this is part 982.
Which is still blowing my mind, by the way.
The sheer volume is staggering.
Yeah.
But when you look at the tone, yours truly, it becomes very clear that this is not a viral social media blast designed to game an algorithm.
No, not at all.
Aang isn't performing for engagement metrics or trying to get likes.
No, Aang is engaging in this intimate, ongoing dialogue with the self, using the internet simply as a public ledger.
A public ledger, exactly.
It's this slow, methodical documentation of a life filtered entirely through the specific lens of observing plants. And think about the dominant mode of internet usage today. It's just rapid consumption.
Doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling. We doom scroll through thousands of disparate pieces of information, absorbing panic and outrage, and we rarely pause to actually synthesize any of it.
We are just reacting to the center stage of the internet, which is usually incredibly loud and chaotic.
Yes.
But Aang is practicing this radical form of digital mindfulness.
Digital mindfulness, I like that.
Well, by writing Dear Interweb, Aang personalizes the medium. By numbering it 982, Aang acknowledges that understanding is a compounding process.
It takes time.
Right? It's not a singular viral event. It is a quiet rebellion against the modern pressure to only publish polished, finalized, monumental achievements.
Go look at my perfect vacation.
Exactly. Instead, Aang is publishing a brief thought about a border plant seen on the way to the post office.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Because we're talking to an audience of people who are likely managing really complex lives, right?
Yeah. Juggling endless browser tabs.
Exactly. Feeling the constant pressure of information overload. Is this kind of deliberate, peaceful documentation the actual antidote to that overwhelm?
I believe it is a highly effective one, honestly.
Why is that?
Because documentation forces you to transition from a passive consumer of your own life into an active architect of it.
Oh, wow. Passive consumer to active architect.
Yeah. When you are overwhelmed by macro-level anxieties, the news cycle, career trajectories, global events, the most grounding thing you can do is aggressively focus your attention on the micro.
Like a single field of catharanthus-roseus.
Exactly. Or, the specific way the light hits your desk at 3 p.m. Or an honest admission of a past failure. When you take the time to articulate what you actually observed in the physical world, it stops the doom scroll.
It breaks the loop.
Right. It takes an errand, which is by definition a mindless task meant to be forgotten, and it elevates it into a moment worthy of a historical record, worthy of being entry 982.
It creates a physical artifact of your own presence. It basically proves you are awake during the mundane parts of your life.
And the listener has the capacity to do this every single day.
You don't need a blog.
No, you don't need a public blog, and you certainly don't need an audience. You just need the discipline to pause the autopilot, recognize the friction between a past failure and a new observation, and clearly note it down.
Well, let's pull all of these threads together for the listener, because this has been a really profound journey extracted from just, what, a few sentences of text?
It's amazing how much is packed in there.
It is. We started with the concept of the mundane, the cognitive sleepwalk of running an everyday errand.
And how that low expectation state is actually the perfect canvas for a sudden interruption of beauty.
Right. And from there, we watched Aang confront the vulnerability of mixed results, demonstrating how to process past failures without ego.
Without getting defensive.
Exactly. Instead of feeling mocked by someone else's success with the Vincas, Aang viewed it as undeniable proof of the plant's ultimate potential.
It's that shift from seeing the world as a mirror reflecting failure to a window showing possibility.
Which led us to the revelation of the border plant. The realization that the highest potential of a thing, whether it's a flower or a daily routine or a professional skill set, might not be in the center stage.
Right, it might be on the margins.
On the margins, providing the crucial boundary that holds the chaos back.
All of which is meticulously captured in Aang's ongoing mindful practice of documentation. A quiet, steady drumbeat against the noise of the modern internet.
So as you go about the rest of your day, we want you to take this framework with you. You don't need to be a botanist to apply the lessons of Part 982.
Not at all.
You have your own errands, you have your own stretches of highway hypnosis. We challenge you to keep your eyes open during those gray routine moments.
Look for the edges.
Yes, look for the edges in your own life, the administrative tasks you dismiss, the quiet support structures in your relationships.
And when you inevitably encounter something that triggers a memory of your own past, mixed results, try to pause the ego.
Just take a breath.
Allow that encounter to serve as proof of what is possible, rather than a stinging reminder of what didn't work out last time. Let it re-energize your pursuit of finding the right placement for your efforts.
That is how you turn a trip to the dry cleaners into an epiphany. So we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder as you head back into the world today. Consider Aang's sheer dedication.
982 posts.
This is an author who has written 982 dispatches about gardening. They have spent countless hours, probably years, deeply analyzing this specific subject, and yet it is just now, completely by accident on a random Tuesday errand, that they are realizing the true, fullest potential of the vinca as a border plant.
Which proves that true mastery isn't about knowing everything, right? It's about remaining permanently open to being surprised by what you thought you already knew.
Exactly. So ask yourself, if an expert with 1,000 entries of documentation can find a massive, fundamental new revelation in a subject they know intimately, what other massive undiscovered potentials are hiding in plain sight within the jobs, the hobbies, or the people that you think you already completely understand? Keep your eyes open on those errands. See you next time.